Oh yeah, down in Jamaica they got lots of pretty women. Uh, Yellow is the color. Yellow. No, I used to do this poem called "Yellow is the Color." And how did it go? Yellow is the color. Yellow is my skin. Yellow is my. Oh dear. Um, this is supposed to also be in the Caribbean. I think it's Barbados. This hat suggests that anyone who's ever wanted to go to the Caribbean don't go. They said they've had enough of tourists and they've decided to make this a nature preserve. And no one gets to go to Barbados ever again because that is the plan of the. Um, well, that was one of the plans. It's to keep people out. Like keeping people out. Like you don't want these people to come. So, you're just going to declare it a nature reserve. Um, the whole of the United States is going to be declared a nature preserve, and it's for nature, not humans. So, all the humans in the United States are going to have to leave because it's going to be declared a United Nations nature preserve. Why don't we just say all of the Americas, North, South, and Central, are going to be nature preserved. So anyone who uh, is in the Americas, you have to leave. This is the plan of the United Nations. The United Nations plans to conquer America by declaring it a nature preserve off limits to humans. If you're American, how are you going to fight the United Nations? Well, especially since the United Nations has now become, well, you remember we used to have Team America World Police, that movie? Team America World Police, but now Team America is going to be defeated by Team United Nations, which is, who is in Team United Nations? Um, 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 I don't know, but I'm sure they'll find somebody to lead that group. Perhaps it'll be. Mm, um, um, uh, no, no, we don't know who's going to lead the United Nations. All we know is that that is what's going to happen. The United Nations is just going to. It's already been announced. 30% of the land area of the United. 30% of the land area of planet Earth is to be declared nature reserve. I saw it last week on the news. So the 30% is the Americas. So I'm sorry, America. If you're American, you have to move. No humans are going to be allowed in the Americas, so it is declared by the United Nations. Now, before you get your balls in a snit, Americans, you must remember that it was America that set up the United Nations. They did. It was President Roosevelt and his wife, Eleanor. They set up the United Nations after World War II. So if you're getting taken over by the United Nations, you're getting taken over by President Roosevelt and the First Lady, because they set this up a long time ago. So, if you think you're a great well, he was a Democratic president, but he was reelected like 3 times or something. That's when they brought in the term limits for presidents after Roosevelt, because basically people kept finding out through the news media that Roosevelt won again, Roosevelt won again. Did they... okay. So then what happens to the Aboriginal people of the Americas? Do they have to? Yes, they have to leave too. I'm terribly sorry, but the United Nations has declared no humans, nature preserve through the American continents. So I'm sorry if you have land claims or land settlements, you have to leave. The United Nations has decided that you're a human and you can't stay. Okay, this is Vasily Fisk's hat, and Vasily Fisk, our he's a detective, and he used to say he was a detective. Vasily Fisk, did he start drinking? Yes, he's been drinking these strange potions I'm talking about from the things like the acacia grass that make everything look tie-dye, like you just walk, it's a cloudy day out here, and but when you're doing these kind of things, everything looks like super colorful, you know. And Vasily has decided not to talk. So, what do you want to do about my problem child? That is the acacia grass plant. Do you want to um, ignore the issue for another 2 or 3 more generations? Or do you want to grab the bull by the balls and say, acacia plant, we're either going to make you legal or we're going to leave you taboo? And well, what criteria are you going to use? Well, in the olden days, what they told us via the television was that people who were taking Oswald's acid or acacia plant or mescaline, um, um, angel dust never gets talked about it, but in 1975, angel dust was really popular. These kind of things. What do you want to do with them? Do you want do you want them to be sold at like the um, Walmart pharmacy, or do you want them to be sold? I was going to say corner stores, but we don't seem to have corner stores anymore. Walmart has killed all the corner stores. So, where else? McDonald's. Do you want to get coffee and a tab of acid? It's just that, that's what a lot of fringed dwellers are thinking right now, that perhaps what everybody needs is a good dose of acid. And I said, no, I don't think it's a good idea because of the problem of bad trips. What's a bad trip? It's when you take some acid and instead of feeling expanded and full of love, you feel absolutely horrible, and you feel like there's like paranoid, and then you confirm your paranoia when you start seeing things out of the corner of your eye that look like ghouls. So the idea that somehow dropping acid is always a good idea is folly. And this was the reason given around 1972 for making these kind of plants illegal, because there was a great fear that the world was going to take too many of these, and there weren't going to be enough people to, rescue people who are on bad trips, because they're all going to end up down at the psychiatric intensive care and overload the system. And we know from coronavirus, we want to flatten the curve. So the whole idea of, an open market for these kind of psychedelics is fraught with trouble if you're, like the local police department. You don't want to have, people. We already had that stuff down in Miami, Florida. It was called bath salts. Remember bath salts? People would take bath salts and it would turn them beyond crackheads. They turned beyond zombies. They talked. Well, they were, the bath salts people. Somebody wants to. No, never mind. And so we do want to tell you that we don't condone people taking bath salts. So should it be wise that we condone people taking And the answer is always going to be, some are going to say, I want this stuff available, and others are going to go, I'll be damned if I'm going to consent to you putting this stuff on the street, and, then, I go for my evening walk, and then I got to go do the zombie walk. I don't want people all hopped up on psychedelic Sundays. And besides, who's going to be working at the whole point is, can you work if you're like tripping on acid? Well, they keep telling us in California that people are doing these microdoses of acid. The people that work at like Facebook and Google. Is it true? I don't know. I mean, it's publicized in magazines. I'm not sure, but these kind of science and computing magazines, they all talk about people doing this stuff. And I thought it was technically illegal in the United States, but, you know. So what really should be done with these plants? I just told you what I think should be done, because the having the walking zombies going around. I mean, did you ever go through a crack neighborhood where people will do anything for more crack? You know, crackhead prostitutes. So, you know, in Jamaica, in the olden days, they were famous for their Jamaican weed. And, well, you better get down there and smoke it before the Jamaicans I mean, all those Caribbean islands, they're all going to be evacuated. There's not going to be anyone living anywhere in the Americas. So, you know, all of those holiday places, it's just going to be a place where pelicans live. This is the infinite wisdom of the same people who brought you the Rona, the famous coronavirus. The same people who thought it was wonderful to impoverish everyone, you know, by paying us peanuts and raising the price of housing so high that I don't know what to tell you, but seriously, in the olden days at election time, one presidential candidate would always say to the incumbent, you know, are things better under you 4 years after your start of your term? Yes or no? And that's what the election was. And I gotta tell you, are things better or worse? You know, I don't want to tell you. The other thing is that people that are wearing these masks are getting horrible zits and infections around their mouth. Have you noticed this? Yeah, people are talking about it now. I'm sorry, I keep going on and on and on about the Rona, but this has gone on way too long. And nobody seems to care. Everyone just has been a good little sheep, nodding their head and saying, I'll wear my mask and get the Rona disease. It's nothing to do with coronavirus. The Rona disease is when the bottom half of your face rots off because of the zits start, and then the bacteria grow, and then the fungus gets in here. So, you know, all of this skin down here, all of this skin on the tip of your nose, it's going to look like you have motherfucking leprosy. And you're worried whether or not you should control the spread of this horrible grass, acacia, that gives you sweet dreams or brings you hell on earth.